wilderness survival show has started with new gear. Marder constructs a cozy wooden shelter and roasts extra fish on the fire. A smoked fish and some berries make up his most sumptuous lunch today. It's now the 7th day. There are still 7 contestants left. It's been raining frequently lately. Even with a raincoat, Marder gets soaked. Being wet every day is not a solution. Marder's thick clothes are already soaked. He jokes that he should have brought a washing machine. He repurposes the waterproof fabric from his shelter. He turns it into a skirt. To an ordinary person, it's just a skirt, but to a survivalist, it's a waterproof skirt. Thanks to the skirt, he doesn't have to worry about wet pants anymore. It's still early, so Marder plans to fish and build a raft to reach deeper waters. To reach deeper waters for fishing, he needs a raft. Meanwhile, Rams has significantly expanded his shelter and can now stand up inside. No more lying down constantly, especially when it rains. Upgrading the shelter was crucial, and Rams is thrilled with the improvements. Henry, however, isn't very engaging. He's too lazy to improve his shelter. A minimalist, he burned his fishing net from the get-go. He spends his days eating berries and sleeping. Fleming, bored in his shelter, takes out a photo of his wife to pass the time. He wants to hang his wife's photo in the shelter to feel like she's sharing the wilderness experience. Family photos are a hidden trap in wilderness survival. Looking at them stirs up endless longing for home. This usually makes contestants quit sooner. Meanwhile, Marder plans his raft, starting with a wooden ring. Then he makes another ring, weaving branches in and out. The raft needs to be a good size, but it can't be too heavy, and it must work. Not sure if everyone understood, but I listened for 2 hours. I still have no clue what he meant. Eventually, he stopped explaining and began building, gathering lots of fir branches. Let's hope he makes a good raft. It's now the 8th day, and it has been raining for several days. Rams lives by the damp shore. His shelter is full of hanging socks and underwear, and almost everything inside is wet. The rain has made survival even harder. On the 7th day, Rams noticed water seeping into his shelter. The fire pit was also filled with water, forcing him to find a new place to build a shelter. He found a higher ground nearby. Here, he shouldn't have to worry about flooding. After choosing the spot, he started building the shelter. Building a shelter alone is really tough. But Rams faced many challenges. He set up a tripod, covered it with waterproof fabric, and finished the shelter in a day. His sweater was quite damp and uncomfortable, but it kept him warm. Rams likely had the best mindset of all the contestants. He even made a friend, a stick that looked like a dinosaur. He named it Renee, which he found on the beach yesterday. The relentless rain had been falling for days, impacting nearly all the contestants. Rick was anxious about the rising water levels. His shelter was already flooded, leaving him to sit inside, staring blankly. With no food or phone, it was even more unbearable. Ever since the rain began, Rick had been contemplating quitting. The constant dampness was unbearable. Sonny was still lounging in the morning, with waterfalls forming around his shelter. His bed consisted of a waterproof sheet and a sleeping mat. On the 7th day, Sonny's fishing net got stuck at the bottom. When he pulled hard, the rope snapped. After the rain stopped, he decided to search for the fishing net once the rain stopped. When the sun came out, Sonny took the opportunity to look for the wet and weak net. The lake water was freezing cold. He fumbled around underwater, turning into an ice pop, but still couldn't find the net. He returned to the shelter, unable to figure out where the net had gone. Even with a sweater on, he was shivering from the cold. Without the net, how would he catch fish and avoid hunger? He chose to use the second net for hunting. If he lost this net too, it would mean he couldn't survive here. Sonny took the new net to the water and continued fishing, hoping for a good catch. Marder was still building a raft. He wanted to reach deeper waters to catch fish. Building a raft was time-consuming, but if it could bring him more fish, it would be worth it. Marder built the raft with fir branches, added waterproof fabric underneath, and secured it with a cross structure. The raft looked like a bird's nest, but who knows how well it would work. Marder was quite handy. He was likely one of the most food-driven contestants. By the 2nd day, he had already caught plenty of fish. This guy knew his stuff, but sometimes he seemed a bit off, preferring to sit in the shelter and sleep. Rick kept griping about the environment. The shelter's flooded, and he wants to boil water, but the wood's soaked. He's unsure if the cut wood will even burn. He plans to build a vertical fire pit by standing 3 logs upright. This is a common fire building method in wilderness survival. It efficiently burns wood. He eagerly cuts wood shavings for kindling, keen to get the fire started. Using a fire starter and wood shavings, he quickly gets the fire going. This type of fire burns efficiently. It can withstand rain, making it ideal for damp areas. The fire burns gradually from top to bottom. Sonny's fire pit is at his shelter's entrance, framed by wood. This design doesn't protect or block light. It's simply impractical. On the 9th day, Marder headed to the shore early to work on his raft. The raft was quite unwieldy, but with his persistent effort, it slowly came together. Once it was finally done, he felt immense happiness. He plans to use this raft to catch more fish. Marder named the raft Gertrude. It will be Marder's new companion in the wilderness. Hopefully, it will bring him good luck. Mate woke up feeling a noticeable drop in temperature. The temperature is dropping, so Mate plans to stuff moss into the gaps of his shelter for better insulation. Don't overlook these gaps. Strong winds can turn them into life-threatening hazards. This carpet looks very nice. Rick's shelter, on the other hand, is leaking badly. Why not just relocate? Having watched countless survival shows, Rick is the first to build an aerial hammock. Meanwhile, Marder is ready to test his raft's buoyancy. Sitting on it, he finds no major issues. The raft's success excites Marder. This achievement means he can avoid the tough fishing conditions on the shore. Regardless of his catch, the raft offers Marder renewed hope for survival. On the 10th day, Ram's shelter was very well improved, mainly windproof and waterproof. On the 8th day, he caught a huge fish, enough to last him several days. But today, when he checked his net, he wasn't so lucky and caught nothing. Sitting in his shelter, he regretted eating the big fish all at once. If he had rationed it, he could have stretched it out for a few more days. Reflecting in his shelter, he resolved a better plan for his next catch, savoring it like ice cream and smoking the leftovers. Since he wasn't sure if he'd catch another fish the next day, he knew storing food was crucial for survival, especially given his lack of experience. The continuous rain made the contestants anxious. Mate caught a fish yesterday and wanted to make smoked fish today. He hung the fish over the fire to smoke it, becoming the first to do so. Earlier, Marder had caught 3 fish and ate them all at once, which was pretty wasteful. The shelter had plenty of juniper berries, perfect for smoking fish. Soon, the fish turned golden and looked very appetizing. Fleming went to the shore for a drink and refreshed the water for his eels. With 2 fish and 5 eels in his bag, he had the most food among the contestants. Fleming's way of preserving food was to raise it. He wasn't concerned about running out. He intended to keep the fish in the lake. He drove a wooden stake into the lake bed, and once it was secure, he tied the eel bag to it. This method was the best for raising fish, but it was also the riskiest. I kept expecting the fish bag to disappear one day. Sonny went to check his net and had another big catch today. He caught a large turtle fish, weighing about 5 or 6 pounds. If he rationed it, the fish could last him 4 days, the head and tail for 1 day, and 2 pieces of meat for the rest. After every net check, he had to reorganize everything, which was a real hassle. Marder's shelter was well built. Now, he turned his attention to fishing. He measured the net on the shore, but when he flipped the raft, the waterproof fabric snagged on a branch and ripped. Since the tear was low, water would seep in when he used it. The raft was useless before it even hit the water. Even worse, Marder didn't know how to patch the hole. He squatted by the shore, unsure of what to do. Even if he had used it to catch fish once, he wouldn't feel so bad now. He had spent so much time on the raft, and if he couldn't go out to fish, it would all be for nothing. Rams built a stone fireplace in his shelter. He's cooking the fish guts he threw away earlier. When there's food to eat, he discarded the fish heads and guts earlier, but now he's retrieving them to cook and eat. It's a tough lesson in survival. Rams is learning bit by bit. I bet after this, he'll be more resourceful with his fish. Meanwhile, Mate's smoked fish is ready. Smoked fish with vinegar, ginger, and herbs. It's definitely a sumptuous lunch. Mate now has a very good shelter, and now he can enjoy such a lavish meal. It's like heaven on earth. Although Fleming also has plenty of food, he's not as comfortable as Mate. In wilderness survival, the winner isn't the one living in luxury, but the one with the smartest strategy. Fleming's food and shelter are both above average, so he has a good chance of becoming this season's champion. He's taking in the mountain view and admiring the distant rainbow. Meanwhile, Rick is almost always dealing with the rain. He spends most of his time chopping wood. Hey, shouldn't you catch some fish to eat first? Chopping wood every day isn't a solution. His shelter is still just a tent. I suspect Rick is just a filler contestant. Sonny's fire pit is better than his shelter. However, his shelter is as bad as a doghouse. It rains almost every day here. Lighting a fire for warmth is tough. Marder's fire pit, inside his shelter, cooks food and keeps him warm. Marder's raft is leaking, and he's at a loss for solutions. This setback hits him hard. He hasn't caught any fish yet, and it's been raining daily. Without extra waterproof fabric, he's struggling on day 11. Rams checked his fishing net early but only found a small fish. He's beginning to feel hungry. He's shedding pounds daily and is desperate for a bigger catch. But perhaps he hasn't noticed how shallow the water is here. Catching that small fish was already quite lucky. Every time he checks the net, it's a mess. This really tests Ram's temper. As he kept checking the net, he was surprised to find 2 more fish. These would last him at least for more days. Yet, Rams isn't content, he aims to catch more fish. Meanwhile, Rick just sleeps all day. It looks like fishing isn't his priority. He starts a new fire daily, but I can't figure out why he keeps doing that. It's not like he's cooking food or keeping warm, just wasting time on useless things. Marder decided to reorganize the waterproof fabric of the raft. He's figuring out how to fix the gaps, knowing the raft can't be built until the waterproof fabric is repaired. In his spare time, he gathers firewood. He arranges the firewood around the shelter for easy access. It's definitely more convenient. Haven't seen Henry in days. This guy is a vegetarian. He doesn't go fishing every day, just sleeps in the shelter. Such a survivalist. He's really not that interesting. Meanwhile, Rams is stuck organizing the fishing nets, a task he finds annoying but necessary for getting food. Despite the annoyance, he has no choice. What surprises await us from the participants? Looking forward to the next video update.